well. Yippee skippy, we're here now.
In case you don't know who that is, ladies and gentlemen, it's such an honor. It's been about 5 years, I think, since I've seen him. My next guest on Chef AJ Live is the author of The Mad Cowboy. He is incredible. He's passionate, and it's so rare to get to see him. Howard, thank you so much, Howard Lyman, for coming on and talking to everybody.
Boy, this is a whole lot better than traveling.
It sure is. Isn't technology great for that reason? So let's talk a little bit about the pressure that animal agriculture is putting on the planet. We have a pandemic right now. Do you think eating animals has anything to do with it?
Absolutely. You know, the earth is sort of sending a wake-up call to the Homo sapiens. They're saying, I don't like what you're doing to the climate. I don't like what you're eating. I don't like the fact that you don't pay any attention to your bad habits. And you know, when we stop and think about it, this is a perfect time. We've got people sitting at home. They should be reflecting. They should be asking themselves, you know, am I part of the problem or part of the solution? You know, do I pay attention? Do I recycle? Do I eat correctly? Do I get solar panels on my house? Do I pay attention to the environment? You know, right now there's a lot of things going on, and you know, AJ, we're in a world of hurt. I really truly believe that planet Earth is saying right now, I'm not sure that Homo sapiens are a good thing on my planet. And I think they're about to get rid of us if we can't wake up and do what's important. You know, if you stop and look at it, this pandemic didn't come from our good habits. This came because we are just like Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, all we want to do is live on our bad habits, and we don't want to pay any attention to what the cost is. You know, I was just looking the other day. It's been over 25 years now since I've knowingly eaten an animal product. And, you know, if I was in the hospital today and they said to me, you have to eat this meat to survive, I would kiss the planet goodbye. There's no way in the world that I'm going to do that. The happiest days of my life when I finally woke up to the fact that I did not have to eat animal products to survive. You know yourself. You're one of the premier chefs in the world. And look at all of the good food you make with no dead animals in it. You know, I don't think I ever enjoyed eating as much as when I finally ended up starting to eat a diet that made sense with the planet, that made sense with the way my body functions. And, you know, here I am, I'm over 80, and I still get up and go to the cemetery and I mow the lawn and I irrigate. And I look at it and I say, you know, things are good. They're really good. I care about what's happening. I care about other people. And so maybe everybody out there today ought to stop and do a little inventory on what they're doing in their lives. And I'll say one thing, you made my day by seeing you.
Oh, well, gosh, I was so honored that you said you would come on, because I know you haven't been doing much speaking lately, but I heard you on Dotsy's podcast. And I thought, well, maybe there's a chance he would come and say hello. You know, you tried to wake people up a long time ago with your book, The Mad Cowboy, and going on Oprah. Do you think it made any difference?
Oh, yeah. You know, you stop and look at it right now. The Mad Cowboy was published back, you know, in the 80s. It's still selling well. It's translated into 15 foreign languages. You know, what's really nice is I go to the mailbox, I open it up, and I get a royalty check from a book that's that old. It's amazing, you know. So, you know, I look at it and I see on national television, the Burger King is advertising that they have an Impossible Burger. Can you imagine that 25 years ago? Can you imagine back when we were trying to get people to wake up to the fact of mad cow disease and what was how many chronic wasting disease in animals, and then all of a sudden, almost every restaurant in the United States of America today, you can go and find a vegan meal. And you used to go and you go into a restaurant and you'd say to the wait person, "I'm a vegan." They would jump back, they thought you had a communicable disease. But now you go in, they say, "Well, yeah, we can feed you. There's no problem with that." Everybody knows now. We've come a long way.
Right. Well, Robert Cheek is watching, and people are saying they're so happy to see you, that you're a legend and that you led the movement to where it is today, and they respect you. So lots of fans watching for sure. So you do think that animal agriculture is the leading cause of epidemics, and if so, why?
Well,
Or how?
well, you stop and look at it. We've got all kinds of bad habits happening in agriculture. We're into gene splicing. We think we know better than Mother Nature. We think that anything that we can grow, we can eat. There's some problems. The human body did not install the mechanisms in our body to put up with things that were never supposed to be introduced into the system. And, not only is the problem where we're at today coming from agriculture, I think the solution for the future is in agriculture right now. Can you imagine they right now are putting millions of dollars in farmers' pockets for sequestration of carbon out of the atmosphere into the soil? Can you imagine that if every farmer out there woke up and then looked at it, and that if they started farming with nature, then number one, it'd be more profitable, maybe more healthy, and it can be done. But we're on a ticking time bomb. We don't know how much time we have left. We're either going to wake up and do things right, or Mother Nature is going to shrug us off of this planet. The dinosaurs, they didn't think they were going to go extinct, but they are. So they didn't know, but we should know. And I just hope that the young people out there today look at it and say, well, those old codgers there dug us into a deep hole. But the best way to get out of a hole is to quit digging. And I think there's a lot of young folks out there that understand to throw away the shovel and get out of the hole. And I have great faith that's going to happen.
I love that. The best way to get out of the hole is stop digging. So you think if we don't stop digging, we're going to have more of these epidemics caused by eating dead animals?
Absolutely, and worse. What we're going to do is we're going to just keep building on it. It's going to be this one, and it will mutate, and along will come another one. They'll come together. It'll make Ebola look like it's a party favor. And so I think we got to wake up. And what better time to wake up and reflect than right now, when we end up having time? We're sitting home and bored to death, and I say, well, I can't go do this, or I can't go do that. Maybe you ought to think. Maybe you ought to go in the kitchen. Maybe you ought to get out your cookbook. Maybe you ought to say, wow, that looks great, and cook it and eat it and say, hey, she's got her act together. We need to eat more of that. You're on the cusp right now of the solution in the world, because nobody is going to change if they can't find food that they like. And there's one thing about it, AJ, you sure do know how to make good food.
Right. And so does your friend Tanya Petrovna, who even named a dish at her restaurant after you, the Mad Cowboy.
Well, that's a long time ago.
Right.
It's been an interesting journey.
So Howard, not everybody is familiar with you because we have newer people entering the movement. And so this question for Colleen, when did you wake up?
Well, I woke up when I was paralyzed from the waist down. And the doctor looked at me and said, you know, you have a tumor on your spinal cord. The chances are, if that tumor is beneath the kind of spinal cord, you will never walk again. Now, when you've got a wife, 5 children, 7,000 head of cattle, debt beyond belief, it makes you ask the question, how did I get here? What did I do? What should I be doing? And you know, you look in the eyes of those animals, the big old brown eyes, and it makes you wonder, should I be killing them? Or maybe they're killing me. You know, it's a tough thing. Well, I came out of the operation, a 1 in a million operation. They removed a tumor from beneath my spinal cord. There's some places on my body that I have no feeling, but all in all, I came out really lucky. And then I asked myself, am I just going to say a small prayer and say, gee, thanks, I made it? Or maybe I should change. That was the toughest thing in my life, to have a wife and 5 children, having debts that I needed to be able to repay. And I thought what I was doing was totally wrong. It's been a long journey, but you know something? No matter how long the journey is, it all starts with the first step. And everybody that's watching this today, just ask yourself, could I do better than what I did before? Could I just do one thing better today than what I did yesterday? Let's say, you know, we have burgers in the freezer. We're going to have them for supper tonight. No, I think we'll have some lasagna. And that's the first good step. You know, hopefully you got a dog. The dog would probably like the burger. They're sort of a canine, you know. It's much better to feed it to them than to feed it to yourself. But after a while, if you keep trying, it becomes habit forming. And, you know, I never thought in my wildest dream that I would ever enjoy eating as much today as I did before. And there's no comparison. Food today is unbelievable. You know, you've been to True North, and you know, you go on a water fast, and after the water fast, everything has such a remarkable taste. And just the smell of the cooking from the kitchen makes your mouth water. And I'll tell you, that's a great place. Besides that, they play poker too.
That's right. I remember playing poker with you that time. It's so, oh, I love poker. Wow. So we have a question from Connie. How old were you at the time of your surgery, and does the rest of your family eat the way you do?
Well, let's see. I was 41 years old. My family, not my immediate family, but my brothers, sisters, parents, they thought I'd dove off the cliff without a parachute. And but my wife has always been light years ahead of myself. And she just looked at me and said, about time.
Oh my God. What about your kids, Howard?
Well, you know, it's amazing. We have 5 kids, and of the 5, 3 of them are good plant eaters, but none of them are vegan. But they know, you know, where food comes from, and I'll tell you, you're never a good prophet at home. So,
right. So here you are, a fourth generation cattle rancher. When you have this epiphany, what do you do with all the cows?
Well, I didn't have much choice. Had a lot of debt, and I had to sell the animals to pay the debt off, and I did. And I walked out of the operation penniless. All I had was a lot of experience, a lot of family, and no cash, and started a new life. And I can't tell you how many thousands of miles I traveled, how many different places I stayed with people. I never stayed in hotels or motels. All I asked for was a place on the floor and a blanket, and I was happy. And I could relate stories from the thousands of people that I stayed with. It's amazing when you go somewhere and you do an event, you have somebody that set it up and made it happen. And usually you get to talk to them for 10 or 15 minutes and then do a program and then off to a hotel or a motel. But if you stay with them, I can't tell you how often we set up in the middle of the night talking for hours. And I would walk in a stranger, I would leave a friend. I can tell you about a guy that I stayed with in Northern Illinois that had a full pipe organ in his living room. And he said to me, he said, "You ever been inside of a pipe organ?" I said, "No." He opened the door and said, "Now's your chance." I will never forget that. And, I stayed with people that were bicycle racers, that had a $25,000 bicycle. And, how often do you get to spend time and talk to people like that? And I stayed with thousands of them. I remember the gal, Tanya, that had native foods. I stayed with her and slept on her floor, and she became one of the greatest friends that I've ever had. A great, great lady. I mean, she was light years ahead of her time. And, so for me, here I am now. I hardly ever travel. I do very, very few interviews anymore. But the memories I have, I could sit there and relate to you by the hour of different people in different places doing different things. And there are some great, great people. You remember Kobe,
Absolutely.
lifelong vegetarian. When I was in Northridge, I always stayed with her. It was like my second home. I can remember Dr. Michael Clapper was my roommate. So a lot of great things in my life. And then there's Chef AJ, the top of the list.
Well, it was so hard to get you to agree to speak, but boy, you were worth waiting those 5 years for. Let me tell you, since you're such good friends with Tanya, even though you don't travel much, it would be great if you came to visit her, because believe it or not, I moved to the same city she lives in now. So you can have it. Well, she lives in Palm Springs. I live 21 miles away, but it's in the desert. So you could visit both of us at the same time. So that would be amazing.
I can remember when she built this second outlet in Palm Springs. And you know where they got most of the stuff for it? From the dump.
Wow.
People were taking, stonework out and throwing it away, and they were collecting it, and much of that went into it. I'm telling you, Tanya is one fantastic lady, and I could not tell you how much I think of her. Another person that's a great friend, and I just talked to him, is Glenn Mercer. And I read his book. He said, I might mention it, and Own Our Health. I'll tell you what, it's a fantastic read. I loved it. I wish it had been published 40 years ago, but anyway, great people in the movement.
Right. Well, I actually was, I'm honored that Glenn asked me to write the recipes for the book. So thank you so much for the kind endorsement. I have some kind endorsements of you from people watching live. B says, Howard is a blessing. Kathy says, everything I've seen him in, he gives off so much energy. I hope it catches to others. He's an inspiration. And beautiful heart, Howard. So people love you. Megan says, how did you know veganism was the way to go after your tumor was removed? That it was what would heal you? Some people today think keto has the same healing power.
Well, it was all about, I spent my life with animals, and they will teach you a lot if you're smart enough to look and learn. And I knew that what we were doing was wrong. I don't know why. I don't know, being raised around them all my life, that was all it was raise them and kill them. But I knew there was something wrong, that something we shouldn't be doing. And then, my wife, Willow Jean, she's a real special person. She probably has the biggest heart I've ever seen in my life, not only for humans, but animals. And she used to ask me real pointed questions, should we be doing this? Isn't there a better way? Is this the way it should be? Never said what you're doing is wrong, but she sure made me think. And, to this day, we've been married 52 years. I still married better than she did.
That's fantastic. We have another very nice comment about you. People love you. Robert says, love the wisdom being shared by Howard. We've got a lot of hearts. There's just so many nice comments. They're going by so fast. So Bonnie wants to know what you do for a living now. You're retired now, correct?
Yep. I'm just an old retired fart. And I spend most of my time now volunteering. I'm the chairman of the Oddfellow Cemetery. We have 2 cemeteries, and if somebody wants to give you one, don't take it. The thing, all cemeteries were predicated on whole body burials. About 85 to 90% of the people today are cremated. Cemeteries are bankrupt around the entire country. And, I have a feeling that I owe it to those people that are buried there, that I do what I can do to make the cemetery financially viable for the next 100 years. On top of that, I'm the president of a local group, what's called Our Environment, and we make life miserable for city government and state government about, banning things like plastic bags and just making sure that everybody realizes there's better ways to do things, that we put in more solar power, that we put in electric charging stations, that we encourage people to install solar panels. And, other than that, I still have a whole bunch of kids and grandkids and great grandchildren, and I have one great grandchildren. Boy, I've never seen him. He was born in the middle of the pandemic, and he isn't traveling, nor am I. But one of these days, I'll see him at Noah Verne is waiting for my arrival.
Nice. You live in Washington now, correct?
Yep, I live in Ellensburg, Washington. Don't tell anybody, but this is the perfect place in the world. I mean, you talk about nice. I came from Montana, where we had snowdrifts as high as the eaves on the roof. And here this winter, I got out my snow shovel twice. We almost had 2 inches of snow, and we didn't need to shovel it, but it made me feel like it was good exercise. But this is the perfect place in the world to live. Of all of the places I traveled in the years, traveling 100,000 miles a year, this is the perfect place for my wife and I, and we just love it. And we're a little bit on the activist side. So we cause trouble in town when things like the environment and and so life is good.
That's terrific. This is a random question from Kenny. I don't even know if you have a dog, but he wanted to know what kind of dog do you have?
I don't have a dog. My wife and I have had a series of cats, and I've decided I will never have another cat because I miss them too much and they don't live long enough. But when I was traveling, it didn't make a lot of sense to have a dog. And if the right one showed up at the door, I'll tell you that if I was to have a dog, it would be from a dog that was rescued. I wouldn't care what variety was, the bigger the better. I love dogs with big feet, and, have a tongue that'll whap you alongside the chin when they come and give you a big kiss. But I love dogs, and
Too.
I love cats too, but they don't live long enough.
We have a few more questions on animal agriculture, but first I want to read this question for Louise because I want to know the answer, just having had my 25th wedding anniversary. What is your secret to a long, happy marriage?
There's two words. Your husband needs to practice these two words and say them over and over again till it is a learned response. Yes, dear. And if you do that, then you're a leg up on a good, happy marriage. Because if you don't learn those terms, I'm telling you what, life will be hell in the household.
I'm going to play this over and over for my husband. I think Dr. Goldhammer once said something similar. That is hilarious. So when you were a cattle rancher and then you all of a sudden became a vegan, you influenced so many people that are watching today and that aren't watching today with your book, The Mad Cowboy. But did you ever influence another fellow cattle rancher at all? Or were you the only one?
Oh, yeah. I would say that I would personally know at least 10 people that came to me when I was touring and speaking and came to me and said, I looked at what you did. I think what you did was right. I'm doing the same thing. And, that's not changing the whole industry, but it's resonating with people that have compassion for animals. And, they were not put on this planet for us to eat. We would not be dying of heart disease if we were not eating those animals. So the answer to the question is, yep, I've changed them, and that's happening all the time.
That must be very gratifying because I'm sure a lot of them were not very happy when you went on Oprah.
There was a little problem there, but more and more of them understand today what they're doing is not working, and not just animal agriculture. I'm talking about all of agriculture. The way we're producing food today is not right. And if they don't wake up, I don't care how big they get. The biggest thing they're going to grow is their debt. And in the long run, it's going to choke them. And so if they want to learn how to farm and what makes sense, it's out there. They can research it, learn it. And I'll never forget, I had a good friend in North Dakota, and he was one of the first organic farmers. And, he says, there's only one thing in the world that I outproduce other than my neighbors. And I said, what's that, Fred? He said, net profit. Farming correctly can be profitable, but you got to get off the treadmill. You got to get off the chemical, pharmaceutical bandwagon, because they're not in business for you to make a profit. They're there to take your money and leave you by the side of the road.
Yeah. Could you please explain to the viewers how animal agriculture is responsible for antibiotic resistance?
Well, when you take thousands of animals and you put them together in a closed system. Number one, they were never designed to be standing side by side in their own waste for months at a time. And when you do that, they're getting sick. And if you're going to have enough animals survive that you hopefully can pay the bills, you've got to give them antibiotics. Well, when you give them the antibiotics, those germs that are out there, those viruses that are out there, they adapt, they learn. And what the thing they learn about it is they don't care whether you're a bovine or a Homo sapien. And when they end up becoming immune to those drugs and they attack you, and when you are sick, the chances that there will be a drug that will help you are minuscule. And so the majority of our problem right now of the antibiotics that we have that are not working for humans came from the drug resistance that happened in animal agricultural feedlots.
Oh boy. Even though you were able to give up meat, you struggled a little bit with dairy, didn't you, at first?
I started out when I was a kid. We had the largest dairy in the state of Montana, before and during the Second World War. And that was back at the time you couldn't hire any help because everybody was being drafted into the Army. And so I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning with my mother, and I was probably 4 years old. And I would go down and sit on the bucket and keep her company while she milked the cows, because my father was head of the draft board and he would be there from 10 o'clock at night until 4 o'clock in the morning. So he would come home, go to bed. My mother and I would go and milk the cows. And when we finished milking the cows, then my dad would get up and he would come and do all the milk house work. And that was cleaning all of the milking equipment. And so, that's what I learned. I can still remember my mother told me, she says, you got to be careful when you walk behind these cows because they're known to kick. Oh, well, when you're 4 years old, you get, like you're invincible. I can remember walking behind a cow and she kicked me and I bounced off of the wall and I came back and she kicked me again. And I can still remember to this day what went through my mind. When is this going to stop? And so I'll tell you, I get pretty careful walking behind a cow because one thing about me, I'm not real bright, but I learned I didn't like getting kicked.
That's great. What do you say to people that say, well, but it's okay to eat meat if it's raised kosher or if it's free range?
I wouldn't care whether it was produced on a silver spatula. Your body was not designed to eat meat, period. I mean, it's fairly simple. Can we eat it in the short run? Can we enjoy it? Oh, absolutely. But are you going to live a long time? No. And I don't care how it's produced. It's not something that should be in your diet, period. You're a chef, AJ. You know.
Of course, I know.
You design a meal. Anybody that's watching today, if they came to your house for dinner, and you looked at it and said, "I got a true carnivore," they would eat any dead body that I would place on the table. I will guarantee you could cook them a meal that they would sit down and eat it and they'd say, wow, that's better than anything I can imagine, even better than eating parts of a dead animal. So are you giving up anything? Yeah, heart disease, cancer, diabetes. There's things you're going to give up, but what are you going to get? Longevity. Can you imagine my wife and I I've been married for over 52 years. And it's just because she's almost as good a cook as you are. So I'm not leaving that arrangement.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Al Chase and Chef Al Chase and Donna Benjamin say hello.
Well, howdy, Chef Al.
That's so neat. So this is okay. So this question from Jenny, it's a little weird, but I mean, it kind of makes sense. Why don't we eat other farm animals like horses? People think that's disgusting, but they defend the eating of cows and pigs. I don't get it. Like, why did we choose certain animals to eat and other animals not to eat?
Well, it's all about what is useful. If we were to go to Europe right now and walk into a butcher shop, there'd be as much chance of horse being on the menu as there would be cow. And so it's all what people get used to. Can you imagine how many dead horses there were in the streets of New York back before they ended up with the trolley and the subway? I've read where they were collecting, thousands of dead horses. And you would think that people would have run out and cut off a steak, but it never happened. It just never got popular in this country. And the last time I knew, there wasn't even a horse slaughter facility in the US anymore.
Yeah, I don't get, I've been vegan 43 years and I did eat meat growing up because I did. I'm not proud of it, but I didn't like it. And I just don't understand. I almost understand why people think they need it because they've been brainwashed, but I don't think it tastes all that good. I mean, you've got to put so much fat and sugar and salt on it to make it taste good.
Well, number one is I don't think you've been a vegan for 43 years because you're not that old.
I just turned 60 about in quarantine. I turned 60 a few weeks ago.
Well, I'll tell you what, it looks good on you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You look well, AJ.
Thank you.
You're a great billboard for the movement.
Thank you so much, Howard. So Bonnie wants to know what your most favorite meal is, and Kenny wants to know what's for dinner tonight.
Let's see. Tonight, I believe that we're having beans and rice and salad. My favorite meal is beans, potato salad, and a vegan hot dog.
Wow, that's cool. That is so cool. Monica says, is roadkill and euthanized cats and dogs still being fed to cattle? I didn't even know cattle was eating that.
Well, they're still feeding all animals other than other cattle back to cattle. They're pigs, chickens, turkeys, horses, roadkill, it's all being fed back to animals. The only thing they're not feeding is cows back to cows.
But cows are not carnivores. So I mean, but when they were feeding cows to cows, that's cannibalism, which is disgusting. But cows are not carnivores.
No, but you look at it, they've got the same problem we've got. Right now, we've got a virus that's out there that has never been associated with a Homo sapien diet. So we have no immunity to it. It's the same thing with cows. When you take cows and you feed them another sick cow, whatever that disease that killed that first cattle is the one that's going to kill the next one. And you just keep repeating the cycle. And remember, it's all about greed. When you take the slaughter of an animal, about 40% of the slaughter of an animal is not saleable to humans for food. So do you go and put it in the dump, or do you figure out a way that you can grind it up, turn it into feed, and create a little income out of it? It's all about greed. It's not good. And, eat what makes your mouth water. A carrot,
Yeah.
a cucumber.
Well, it's like that guy said, you put a baby, take a bunny and a carrot in a playpen and give it to the baby and see which one the baby eats and which one the baby plays with.
Let's hope it's not something that we'd have a we would elect president. He'd probably do it the wrong way.
Oh my God. Patty wants to know, did you stay in touch with Oprah Winfrey?
I have not talked to Oprah since the day we walked out of court. And, she's a good lady. If she wanted to talk to me, I'm sure she could figure out a way to do it. Do I want anything from Oprah? Nope, never did. All I want her to do is the things that she has the ability to do and do right. She's a good person. She'll do right.
Nice. So what are your thoughts, Connie wants to know, on how this particular pandemic of COVID-19 started?
This ended up, in my opinion, from the slaughter of what we would consider to be non-edible animals here in the US. It happened in China, and whether it was bats or snakes, or I'm not sure what it was, but this virus came from them. And what happened, it found a great host, a human being that was in there. It was like a banquet. And that virus was able to grow and grow and grow. And as soon as the lodging got filled up, then it moved to the next one and the next one. And what's happening is it's like trying to shovel the tide with a pitchfork. We have no immunity to it. And what's going to happen? A lot of people today are thinking, well, maybe next month we'll be back out and things will be normal. I will tell you, things will not be normal in the United States of America until they develop a working vaccine. And that's probably a year away. So look at some hard times. Look at a time to reflect, learn, change, and get rid of your bad habits. And more bad habits you discard, the better, and the better it is for your life, your family, and our future.
Wow. A year and a half, that's a long time to wait before seeing your new great-grandson.
Well, I would love to tell you something that was not true, but the problem is we got politicians right now that are trying to convince people that, as soon as the sun shines, this is going to go away. It's not going away. This virus loves the host in Homo sapiens. And what it is, as soon as it fills up the one, it then jumps to the next, and then the next, and then the next. Look at what has happened in the pork slaughterhouse in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. They end up with people standing shoulder to shoulder. And when they ended up, I will guarantee you that there was one person infected. And today it's over 700. That's going to continue until they segregate people, they get them apart, they allow the people to get over the disease or die. That's the choice. I heard the other day that over 80% of the people on ventilators in New York are dying. And most of them are old codgers like me. Look at what's happening in those retirement homes and those retirement villages. I mean, one of them ended up with 17 dead bodies stored.
I
This
read
is a
that.
lot worse than what we think. And it's not going to go away. There is not going to be an easy out. Let's do it and do it right.
Yep. It's funny when you were saying non-edible animals, I think of all animals as non-edible.
That's correct. Yeah. But there's maybe some people like, grasshoppers or earthworms. I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, if it does not have a face, liver, or a mother, I'll eat it.
Good for you. Monica says, how did you and Oprah win those 3 cases against the cattle ranchers?
Well, it was simple. We could have gone and tried to defend ourselves that what we said was true. And those people in the jury from good old Texas, they looked at it and said, I don't care whether it's true or not, convict them. But we defended ourselves by the right of free speech. Did we have the right to say what we said? Do you, every member of that jury, had to ask themselves, did they have the right of free speech? If they took away ours, they took away their own. That's the only reason we won. Not because what we said was true, not because what we said was right. It was that we had the right to say it. And when they interviewed the jury afterwards, invariably they said, the reason I voted the way I voted is I don't want anybody taking away my right of free speech. That's why we won.
Well, it's funny because I don't remember exactly where I was, if I was working or going to school, because I didn't watch Oprah, not because I didn't like her, but I believe it was on like at 3 o'clock. So that would mean that this was before I had a VCR and I was either working or going to school. But for some reason, I saw that episode. I don't know why. It was like meant to be. And I remember when she said, I'm never going to eat another burger. And I wonder if she has.
Not as far as I know, but the thing about it is when we stop and look at that entire show, and the fact of it is that was the most watched show in Oprah's career. More people watched that show than any other show that she ever did. And she's a great person. She cares. She cares about other people. And that's the reason that her show was so popular for so long. A lot of people, they look at Oprah and say, gee, I wonder what she can do for me. I didn't want Oprah to do anything for me. All I wanted Oprah to do was what was right. And I believe she did. And so, I'm not going to stand in line and say, Oprah, would you endorse my book? Would you do this for me? There was nothing I wanted from her other than the opportunity to tell the truth. She gave it to me, and I appreciate it. And as far as I'm concerned, great lady.
That is fantastic. Wow. You're just so many wonderful, wonderful comments about this. You had mentioned you had so many memories from all the travels and, the one about the pipe organ in the living room. Do you have any memories you can share maybe about people that we're familiar with already in the plant-based movement, either maybe something like speaking at a conference with them, just something, maybe about some of the people that we know that we can say, oh yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the greatest people that I've ever met in my life, and is a good friend, is T. Colin Campbell. There's a guy, very few people realize it, that the book he wrote, the China book, he actually cashed in his retirement to have enough money to publish that book. I'm telling you what, he's a great individual. You'll never meet a finer person than T and his wife. I'm telling you, they're great. And if you take every person in the movement, and let's take True North. You go there, and you have water fasting, and I believe very strongly in it. The greatest thing in the world to cleanse your body. But what's really nice about it, it's the lectures they do, that they talk about the right things. And when you get back on food, it is good. It is great. And there's nobody there saying, oh, wait a minute, you can't have 2 orders of salad. You can take as much salad as you want. If I still remember, one of the things that we do here at home is we end up right now having vegan French toast. And that was a recipe that we stole from True North. But, talk about Michael Clapper. Michael Clapper, I've known for, I think, forever. I knew his mother. She was a great friend of mine. And I used to go to Chicago and I would meet her and talk to her. And she was one delightful lady. Michael Clapper, one of the great shining lights in the industry, but the list goes on, if you name them, I've met them. And as far as I'm concerned, 99.9% of the people in the movement are real, honest, great people. Every now and then there's some fraud tries to get in and they end up being shown to be a fraud, and in long they're gone. But the rest, great folks.
Well, you referred about yourself earlier as an old codger, and you mentioned you were in your 80s, and so is T. Colin Campbell, and so is Dr. Essie. Who's gonna fill your shoes?
Oh, you don't need anybody to fill their shoes. What you need is somebody to show up in their own tennis shoes. And you want people to bring their own thing to the game. It's just not about shoes that need to be filled. It's people that will fill the chairs. And they do that by having something between the ears and be able to stand up, speak up, and know when to shut up.
Yeah, that's important. When you were testifying with Oprah, did you get to meet Dr. Phil? Was he already part of the legal team back then?
Oh, yeah. Dr. Phil was the reason that we won the trial. Everybody else was trying to say, well, we can bring in this expert and then they will show that what we said was true. And he said, that doesn't make any difference. You're not going to win the case by having what you said was true. The reason you're going to win the case is because of the right of free speech. He's the one that proposed that. He's the one that was absolutely right. Oprah's chief lawyer was Chip Babcock. I haven't talked to him since the end of the trial, but he only lost up to that time. Had only lost one case in all the cases that he tried, and that was that he ended up claiming that a person that they were swearing up and down had died. And they found him in a Spanish prison. So he lost the case, but he won in the long run. And as far as I'm concerned, he's as good a lawyer as I've ever seen in my life.
Wow. Lori says, Howard for president, and wants to know if you grow your own vegetables.
Yes, we happen to have 9 raised beds in our backyard. We have 16 fruit trees, and I was out this morning and helping my wife. I just do remember what I said. Yes, dear. She points. I say, yes, dear. And but she's the gardener, and all I do is provide a little irrigation, a little manual labor, and but we do have 9 raised beds and 16 fruit trees.
Nice. And your favorite fruit is probably honeydew. Get it? Monica wants to know if Howard will be writing another book or doing any speaking engagements.
My wife wants me to write the history of my life for my grandson. The older I get, the more favorable I look at that. Will I go and do any more traveling and speaking? No, I've done my share, and I think it's time for the young bucks to go out and do it. And people like you that are still so doggone young, It's up to you guys now.
You know, I feel I'm maybe only 60, but I kind of feel like I'm done traveling too. You know, when you do so much of it for so long, you just kind of want to be home with your family. Hey, Howard, Linda Middlesworth is watching, and I don't know if this will embarrass you if I tell the funny story at True North with the T-shirt. Do you remember that story? Is it okay to tell?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. So guys, Howard is, even though Howard's very passionate and very eloquent, in many ways, he's sort of a man of few words. If he doesn't really have something to contribute to the conversation, he doesn't just, you know, jibber jabber. And so I was working at True North, and Linda Middlesworth was there as a guest, and my friend Kathy, who's a hairdresser, was there as a guest. And Howard and Willow were up on the second floor. They were doing their annual or semi-annual fast, and we would come up and visit them from time to time. And Howard would sit in the easy chair and he would just listen to the four women gab. And Linda Middlesworth is also a graphic designer. And she had on this T-shirt with a pig, and it was a vegan shirt. And Willow said to Linda, "Oh, I really like your shirt." And Linda said, and we all had the same shirt on. It was a gift from Linda. And Linda said, "Oh, you can have it." Linda is well endowed. And she takes off the shirt and gives it to Willow as a gift. Now, we all had bras on, just so you know. And so I was trying to really get Howard to please agree to speak at my event. I had asked him for years. And so Howard's just watching this, saying nothing. And then I don't exactly remember, because this was 5 years ago, but then all of a sudden Kathy takes off her shirt, and then I take off my shirt. And Howard, who has had said nothing for the last half hour, is sitting in his easy chair and goes, "You know, True North gets better every year."
It's true. Every word of it's true.
Absolutely. Well, Robert Cheek says, "Thank you, Howard, for all you've done. You paved the way for people like me." And Tomas says, "No, yes, dear. No wonder you've lived so long and been married so many years." Boy, it's just so fun talking to you. I feel like we've been talking, can't believe it's an hour. We've been talking for 5 minutes, but it's just so great catching up with you. I was so thrilled to hear that you would be willing to talk to me. And I thought maybe because you were on the podcast, maybe you'd be willing to, because no travel, no, that's what's great about Zoom. You can at least hopefully see your new great-grandson, right?
Well, I see you well.
Yeah. Where does he live? What part of the country does he live in?
I live 109 miles southeast of Seattle. We're on the dry side of the mountains in a place called Ellensburg, and it's a little town. We have about 10,000 people live in town. We have the University of Central Washington with about 10,000 students, and we have about 10,000 farmers in the rest of the county. So, you know, it's a great place, great weather, great people. And the head of the Washington Cattlemen's Association, their office is here in Ellensburg. Needless to say, they've never come and solicited my advice, but they also don't picket my house. So I guess we're easy up.
Oh man, that is so great. It was so great talking to you. And it was good to see Willow. I saw her walk by a couple of times. So I don't want to keep you from your beans and rice and salad. And I hope I get to talk to you again. Let's not wait 5 years next time, please.
Well, I'll tell you what, AJ, anything I can do to make your life better, I will attempt to do it.
Well, I think you have made the life better for so many people, and definitely for so many animals. So thank you for all your, as they've been saying, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you, and have a great, great pandemic.
Okay, you too, Howard. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Come back at 2 p.m. tomorrow when I'll be interviewing registered dietitian Visanto Molina. Thanks again, Howard. So great to see you.
Thank you, and bye, everybody.